To welcome everyone to this month's edition of the Alumni Speaker Series. I'm Annie Puffett, the Director of Career Development here at Upper Iowa University, located on the Fayette campus, is where I am currently located. So tonight we are joined by Jim Mazziotti. He is a 1975 alum from our Fayette campus, and it's always so great to be able to connect with our alums and talk with our alums about their experiences, what they've done since they have completed their degree, and how they've been able to impact their community or their career fields or the different things that they have been able to do, and how that can be impactful for our students and other alums as well. So thank you, Jim, for joining us this evening. And before we get started, I know that there are several things that you want to talk about. But first, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Annie. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. My time at Upper Iowa was a very special time for me. Just want to touch on how I got there because I wasn't planning on going to Upper Iowa. I had my sights set on going to the University of Iowa. But thanks to an excellent admissions counselor, her name was Barb Barkley. And I happened to attend a meeting that she had at the campus of North Iowa Community College. And I actually went with someone I was living with that was going there to play football. He had a meeting with her and he said, "Why don't you come with me?" And I said, "No, I'm going to the University of Iowa. There's really no need to waste her time." But I did go in, and I got to say that Barb Barkley did an incredible job of recruiting me to Upper Iowa. And so she was an excellent salesperson. Having lived in Owine, I'm from Owine, I knew about Upper Iowa. I'd been on the Upper Iowa campus. I actually played music on the Upper Iowa campus for fraternity parties that were there when I was, in music and in bands. And so I ended up going there. And it was one of the best things in my life. Such a great experience. A little bit about me. I'm from Owine, and I graduated from Owine High School in 1972, Upper Iowa in 1975. I was married to an Owine gal in 1980, and we have 3 kids. 2 of my kids, all adult children, obviously, I have 2 teachers and a Marine. And I come from an Owine community from a very diverse Italian background. Owine at one time, especially years ago, had a lot of Italians in the community. A lot of Italians came to Owine because of the job opportunities with the railroad and so forth. And so big Italian community. It was my hometown. I lived there for years and years until I moved to Bend in 2002. So I think I moved to Bend when I was 48 years old. So I spent my first 48 years in Owine, and was a great community to grow up in.
Thank you so much for a little bit about your background. I'm a Northeast Iowa gal as well, so very, very familiar with Owine, with the Owine community. Your career path is long and diverse. Can you tell us how you went from being a music major at Upper Iowa to now working in real estate and being a leadership and motivational speaker?
Yeah, it's something that, no one plans. They say that people that are in real estate, it's usually their 7th career. It's not their first choice of a career. It's not the cool, sexy job that a lot of people, think about when they're students at Upper Iowa or any other university. I got to real estate, but through the music business I was in. So when I graduated from Upper Iowa, I was a performance major. And my intention was to perform music. I had been performing music since the age of 12 with bands and professionally, really, from the time I was 12 years old. Planned to go into performance, and thankfully I made the one night when I was asked to travel with a professional musician, quite well-known blues musician, that asked me to travel with him to Chicago to record, and then onward to do a tour in both the United States and Europe. And I was asked to do that. I was in my last year at Upper Iowa, and I had to make a decision overnight. He said, "We're leaving on Sunday. We would like you to go with us." And I had to make a decision whether I was going to finish at Upper Iowa, finish my degree, or if I was going to do that at that moment. And thankfully, I decided not to do it. Even though it was my dream, I still wonder what it would have been like. But I entered into the music business with my family. Our family had two music businesses, the main one in Owine that started in 1968 called Samar Music, which is no longer there. But went with my family and was in the family music business from 1975 to basically 1996, 21 years. And what I found was in being in business, in my own business, I basically worked from 7 to 7 every day and most Sundays, realizing that I missed a lot of stuff with my family that, you know, you pay your dues with a retail business. It's a tough business. So I got to the point where I thought, you know, I think I'm going to get a real estate license and do it part-time. And if the opportunity ever arises, perhaps I can do real estate full-time. Well, we sold our music businesses in 1996. I was first licensed in real estate in 1992. In 1996, we sold them and got into the real estate business and have been doing that for 31 years. And it's taken me from Old to Bend, Oregon, and where I am now a sales manager for an office in Texas, in the Grapevine, DFW Metroplex area of Texas. And so that's how I got to real estate.
All right, thank you. You've worn many hats. You know, you were a musician, owning a business, and now in real estate, but you are also a successful author. Can you briefly talk about, and I know this is very important to you, can you briefly talk about what led to your decision to write your book, The Challenge, and the significance of the book to you?
Yeah, it's something I just had to do. And it was from an experience, personal experience of our family. It was a book. I was looking for a book that no one had written. So I wrote it. I decided to write it myself. And the book took me 10 years to write. And it actually had many changes in that 10 years. When I first wrote the book, or as I was writing the book, it was about letters that I had written to my son over the period of 5.5 months. And it was from an experience of his entering a school called the National Guard Youth Challenge. It's a school of second chances, a school for students that need to catch up on credits, who are thinking about dropping out of school. And you have to volunteer to go in. It isn't something that's court assigned or anything like that. So my son attended a place called the National Guard Youth Challenge in Bend, Oregon. And it's a 5.5-month residential program where boys and girls go from 16 to 18 years old. And it's very, very strict. There's no television, there's no music, there's no radio, there's no anything except study, discipline, and working to figure out your life. And so over that 5.5 months, 156 days, I wrote 144 letters to my son. I promised him I wouldn't leave him behind. We're a very, very close family, very close Italian family. And sending him away his senior year of school, supposedly the best year of a student's life, right? To a school where he would not be able to watch his football teams play football, go to prom. It was tough. So during that period of time, and when you go, and if you go, I promise that I will be in touch with you virtually every day that you're there. So the book started out with letters. As I was writing it, it turned into something quite different because it was at a time in 2007, 2008, 2009, where the economy, and especially in real estate, was going south. Things were going south, and I was going through major troubles in my business, in my real estate business. As I was wondering if he's going to be able to succeed, I had to wonder, am I going to be able to succeed in my business? So the book became a book more than letters. It became a book about the National Guard Youth Challenge, and it became a book on how to survive failure in life and in business. And so it really covers some different areas, and to different readers, I think it tells a different story.
Thank you so much for talking a little bit about that and sharing your story with that. You're very passionate about community involvement, and I think that shown a lot when you were in Owine with your businesses. Can you talk about some of the roles that you've had within your within the different communities that you've lived in?
Yeah, thanks for asking. My father served as the mayor in Owine during the worst possible time, during the 1968 tornado. And as just a young boy at that time, I was able to see the kind of leadership that he exhibited. And it was something my father was in the grocery business before the music business. I'd never seen leadership demonstrated in that way until there was a crisis. And when that happened, and during that tornado, it was a regular thing to have the governor of Iowa, Harold Hughes, in our house, and John Culver, who was a senator in Iowa, in our house. And I saw how the leadership role worked and how communicating with people was so important. So when it was my time, I decided that I would take part in as many community things as I possibly can in places like Owine. In any small town, someone has to step up. I'm certainly no hero, but what I thought is, what role can I play? And so I looked for every opportunity to serve on different boards in different groups. Some I think I contributed really well to. Others, it wasn't my thing, I guess. I served on the Red Cross. I served to help in bond issues that I was passionate about. I was commander of the Sons of the American Legion, and that kind of led me to be the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the president of the Economic Development Group, with some very talented and fine people who I learned so much from, and also served as a city councilman for 6 years. Probably the most enjoyable thing that I've ever done as far as volunteer work of that kind. And within those roles, especially the economic development role, I was able to serve on something that I'm really proud of. And it's something that is still in Owine, called the Enrichment Center. And the Enrichment Center was basically the thought from just a few very prominent leaders in Owine, 3 of which I just want to mention because they've had a very big part of Upper Iowa University as well. One was Gene Fueling, who recently passed away, who was a business manager at Upper Iowa University. I remember I paid my final bill to Gene Fueling in the business office so many years ago. Don Fraser is another leader in Owine who is now in the Des Moines area, but Don received his MBA from Upper Iowa University. And then an adjunct instructor was former Senator Larry Murphy. And I would like to think the 3 or 4, there's a few others, really were in the back room of a restaurant in Owine called Two Brothers Restaurant, where we had meetings to talk about what could we do in Owine that would be so different than any other community in Iowa? How can we bring industry to our community? How can we bring better education to our community. And during that time, I had a very close relationship with Dr. Ralph McKay, who at that time was the president of Upper Iowa, had a great relationship with him. And so we worked very hard on the project that I'm so proud of, that is still enriching lives of people in Owine and the area, called the Enrichment Center. It's something that back then, Governor Tom Vilsack called the poster child of community collaboration. And I'm so proud of what Gene Fueling and Don Fraser and Larry Murphy and so many other people did to make the Enrichment Center possible. So I was active in just a lot of things to be part of the community.
Being involved in putting oneself out there is one way to gain experience. What are some pieces of networking advice that you have to give others?
Networking is really important in my business that I'm in right now, and it's always been important. I would say, as far as networking goes, I have 9 things I'll just quickly mention that I have written down. First of all, networking is a valuable skill, and it is a skill, and it's so necessary that it's something that can open doors for people and new opportunities to expand your connections, professional connections, connections with just about anybody in business. So number one, I'd say my advice would be set clear goals. Define what you want to achieve and try to achieve them through networking, with talking to people, with looking for industry insights and having clear goals to focus your efforts on making meaningful connections. Second, I would attend as many events as you possibly can. You can never meet too many people. You can never talk to too many people. And I would say a key is to always be interested in what other people have to say. People love talking about themselves, so let them talk about themselves and try to find a way that you can help them in their goals for their lives. Next, I would join as many professional organizations as you can, whether it's Sertoma or Lions Club or whatever it might be. Become a member, and just become as prolific as you can in meeting people and connecting with people. Right now, something that when I was early on in business that we didn't have is online platforms, right? Things like this. What a way to be able to connect and network with people than to do something like we're doing, Annie, today. I think you have to be genuine and authentic. You have to be real, and you have to approach networking with a desire to learn something from other people. And you also have to offer help and support. It's a two-way street, right? And it's just not about you. So you have to offer assistance and your expertise, if you have any. We all have expertise in something, and try to help people. Next is to follow up and stay connected. When you with people, be interested in them and what they're doing. Make sure you get their information, their business cards, whatever, and keep the conversation going. Communicate with them. In the Exit Corporate platform, Tammy Bonnell, the CEO and now the co-chair of Exit Corporation, says that she has something called her Dirty Dozen. And it's the 12 people that can help enrich her life. And she met them all by networking, by communicating. And so we all can do that, whether it's reaching out to me or Annie or to Don Fraser or to Gene Fueling, reaching out to people and ask them for their help and support. Follow up, stay connected, build a diverse network, and be patient. You don't build relationships overnight. Be patient and be persistent. Stay in the game and be persistent in making sure your connections turn into something of value to you and to others.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Switching gears a little bit to your public speaking roles that you do, you speak to many organizations across the nation on how to be better leaders. what are some pieces of advice that you would give to our students about what being a leader means and how they might be able to pursue leadership opportunities?
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention that was so important in my life was in 2012. I became a member of the John Maxwell organization as a founding partner. For those that don't know who John Maxwell is, he's an author of over 70 books. He's considered the #1 leadership coach in the world. And I would say he probably helped me more than anybody to learn how to be a leader. And John Maxwell says that a leader is somebody who knows the way, who goes the way, and who shows the way. And so I've tried to do that from his teaching. Certainly haven't done it without him, but I'm part of 20,000 people that are part of his team. And I think you really do it by having a clear vision of what you want to do and how you can help lead others. And you have to follow the vision. And you have to show others the path to that vision. You don't lead from behind. You lead from in front by showing others how to lead. And so the John Maxwell organization had a huge impact on me. John Maxwell says that leadership is nothing more, is influence, nothing more and nothing less. So we all have influence. And so what I've tried to do, certainly not perfect at it, but to have as much positive influence and leadership through speaking roles by talking with others for the last, 20 years.
Thank you. You have mentioned that you have 3 tenets of meeting your challenges. Can you tell us what those 3 tenets are?
Yeah, without spending a lot of time, basically the 3 of them I can go on and on is, first of all, is develop a growth mindset. It's really a great way to meet your challenge. Find out, discover how you can grow, reach deep inside and find things and ways that you never thought were possible. You know, you can do that through studying, through reading, finding the people that you admire to follow, and develop a growth mindset. Without a growth mindset, you're probably not going to go anywhere. Next, I would say set smart goals, just smart goals, those that are, specific, those that are attainable, measurable. Set clear goals. And next, seek knowledge and seek support. There's so much support. I have found so much support, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, through reading, through studying from the leaders, from the experts, from people that have nothing more on their mind than growing and contributing. So I think the 3 tenets to meeting your challenge is to have a growth mindset, to have clear goals, and to seek knowledge.
All right. Thank you so much. Things that I think we all can learn from. Making connections and building relationships is so important with the advancement in anyone's career or their field. Mm-hmm. What would you say is your biggest piece of advice for individuals looking to build relationships?
Yeah, I actually wrote it down. I wrote 5 things down that might be repetitious on what we've talked about just a little bit. We all have to have and prioritize open and effective communication. I mean, we do it romantically with people that we fall in love with, perhaps, with friends, with professionals that we work with. But I think number 1 in building relationships is active listening. We've become less of listeners than I think we ever were before. Something I learned with writing the 144 letters to my son was I really had to listen to what he had to say, because he answered me every time I wrote a letter, 144 of them. Especially for a parent, it's so easy not to listen, actively listen. You know, people come, people go. So the writing of letters, which is a lost art, really, it was a way for me to really think about active listening. And I think we can do the same by concentrating on it. I think number two in building relationships is honesty. You know, people want to work with those people that they know, they like, and they trust. And I don't think you can find that way without honesty. And so I'd say honesty is number two. Number three, I think, is empathy. Having empathy for those that you work with, those that you talk with, those that you are building relationships. You know, when you talk to somebody on the phone in a phone call, and when you meet somebody, you don't know what kind of day they've had. You don't know what kind of crosses they're bearing, what kind of events in their life have happened. And so I think approaching people with empathy, trying to understand maybe where they're coming from. Maybe they're not mean or crusty or in a terrible mood all the time. Maybe there's some other thing. So having empathy is another. Understanding is part of that. Having an understanding in building relationships for other people's point of views. And unfortunately, we're listening to other people's points of views other than our own less and less, even on college campuses, where you see that, you know, some college campuses are not inviting certain speakers to come where we can all learn from them, even if what they have to say is not what we want to hear. But I think active listening and an honesty to learn from them and trying to understand where they're coming from is helpful to everyone. So I think understanding. And I'd say the fifth one that I thought of, it really is trust. You can't build a relationship without trust. You just can't. And so I would say that's hugely important as you want to build relationships from the time you're in college and long after, even when you're an old guy like me.
Career readiness is something that the Office of Career Development focuses on pretty heavily, and something that employers and other higher education institutions focus on as well. It's an initiative brought down from our national association. And so it's something that they have developed competencies that employers are looking for in the workforce. Looking at those competencies, what are one or two of the top competencies that you feel are most important in helping one excel in their career goals, and why? And I know you've talked about communication already, which happens to be one of those 8 competencies, but are there other ones other than communication that you think are very invaluable?
Yeah, well, you were good enough to send me those, you know, some of those that you have, which included career and self-development and teamwork and communication and technology. It's pretty hard to build beyond that. You know, I'm guessing that those 8 competencies that you addressed to me were something that weren't just off the cuff. I'm guessing a lot of thought went into those, establishing, considering, and writing down and living by those 8 competencies. So it's pretty hard to expand upon, you know, career and self-development. Self-development is something that is a must to grow and to be successful. Communication, technology, equity, inclusion. You mentioned professionalism, critical thinking. I think those are all things that I don't know that I can top, Annie. When I saw those, it was pretty impressive and came from some pretty smart people, I'm guessing, who gave it a lot of thought. I would say one of the core competencies that I would add are values, if that's not in there, is the reflection, the building and sustaining and living to values that you establish for yourself that are important. And of course, I mentioned how important building trust is before, but I don't think I can expand any more on that than what you all already gave me the notes for. it was excellent.
Perfect. And just so our audience knows, those 8 core competencies consist of career and self-development, teamwork, communication, technology, equity and inclusion, professionalism, critical thinking, and leadership. So those are all competencies that employers are looking for in recent college grads and new hires that they are hiring.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of building off of that a little bit, looking at those 8 competencies, how would you encourage individuals to improve their skills within those competencies?
I think the best way that I can think of is find those people that you admire and read everything you can that they have to say. I'm a student of Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill wrote one of the, maybe other than the Bible, one of the all-time best-selling books. I think that was wrote in 27, but Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. And actually, I'm touching on that as I'm working on another book that will touch on how his basically 12 great riches of life that he talks about, how I can expand on those specifically for real estate agents. How can real estate agents build a positive mental attitude and have a capacity for faith and self-discipline and so forth. So Napoleon Hill is someone that I've reached out to. There's Gladwell, there's Simon Sinek, there's John Gordon, there's Tim Ferriss. There's so many important writers and speakers. The one thing that Annie, I never had, obviously, because I'm pre-internet. Heck, I'm pre-microwave. I mean, that's how far that I go back. I'm pre-internet. So we didn't have YouTube, and we didn't have books that you can download on your telephone or your computer and so forth. It's all out there. And, the university serves that purpose to bring the light to the students at Upper Iowa. And beyond that, with the multiple campuses and so forth. So I would say the best way to build your skills and competencies is to find somebody to follow and ask them for help if you can. Reach out to them, study them. One of mine, obviously, was John C. Maxwell. And so I would have never been able to learn the things that I think have made me maybe not smarter, but I'm hoping a better person in my life and to my family and to those that I work with by studying some of what John Maxwell has written about.
Thank you. I do not see any comments that have come in on the live feed. So are there any final pieces of advice that you would give to UIU students, alums, the university community, or anybody else that may be watching this?
One thing I would recommend is that everywhere that you go, you're rewarded for success. You're taught how to succeed, even on the university level. These are the things you need to do to succeed in life. But one of the things I think has been left out that people are so desperate to learn is to how to embrace failure. Because failure is the only way to success. But so many people fail. And for some people, failure means stop. So I think embracing failure, and Maxwell calls it failing forward. I actually speak on that to real estate agents, especially because so many of them, 87% of all real estate licensees today will have failed in 5 years. 87% are gone. And I believe there's a number of reasons. I think, training is a big part of it and so forth. But I think not understanding how to fail forward is something that I wish there was a college course on it. I would love to be able to at least speak on that or teach a class like that, because I think it's so important. Other advice I would say is prioritize your life balance. Okay, there's work, there's family, there's fun, there's all of that. I'm so grateful that I went into the real estate business, because what it allowed me to do was build my calendar around my family and do the things that were so important. You don't get them back. It's gone. When I was in retail, I missed my oldest child's dance recitals because I was working. I missed those times that were so important. And, I can remember watching videotape of that time. And I can remember watching on videotape when she was 5-year-old, a little 5-year-old chubby thing at a dance recital. And I said, I don't remember that. And she said, well, Dad, you wouldn't remember because you weren't there. Mm-hmm. And she didn't say it in meanness, because she knew I couldn't be there because I had to work. But I found a way that I could prioritize my work-life balance. So when my boys, were old enough, I didn't miss those things. My son, youngest son, played college football at Pacific Lutheran University, and high school football as well in Oregon. I never missed a game. The only game I guess I missed, I was at LaGuardia Airport watching the game on the internet. Otherwise, I was at every game, traveled thousands of miles to watch him. And I made a commitment to myself to prioritize my work life and my family life. And next, I would say, continue learning. And isn't that what Upper Iowa is all about? It's
Education
to continue
built
learning.
For life, yes.
It's to continue learning forever. And Upper Iowa has done such a fabulous job of that. From the time I was there in 1975 to growing and growing in a way that no one ever thought could happen. I know when I was there in 75, I think there were 400 students on campus. And I think, distance learning was just coming around. And I think Upper Iowa was one of the first people to develop it, a real leader in it. So continue learning, I think, is so important, Annie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your wonderful words and pieces of advice this evening. That is going to wrap up our speaker series for tonight. And it also is going to wrap things up for our spring semester. So we will take the summer off, and then we will be back at it again with more alums coming up in the fall to kick things back off again. So thank you again, Jim, for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you all back again in the fall. Have a great night, everyone.
Annie, could I make one plug?
Absolutely.
A desperate plug. I just want to talk about my book that I wrote, and I rambled on so much I forgot about the book. It's called The Challenge: How 144 Letters Can Change Your Life. I changed the life of my son, and it will change your life too. So it's available on Amazon if you think you might be interested in the story. And I think it's a great story to read. Thank you, Annie.
We can put the link to the book in the comment section of the page here if anyone is interested in checking that out. So again, thank you so much, Jim. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful night.
I appreciate you. Thank you.